Eddie, how was your night out on the town with Turki AlShaykh?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but there was also football legend Ronaldo was there. We saw on the social media. Your guy, Anthony Joshua. Wait a minute, his opponent, Francis Ngannou. Was that punch-up party before a punch-up?
It's a very unique environment, getting all the boxers who are about to, go to war with each other on Friday night, all in one room for a photo. So yes, it's always a great night of hospitality at His Excellency's house, and just a great feeling of excitement, because the energy that he brings and his real passion and love for sport, particularly for boxing, it's very refreshing.
Now, I wouldn't have imagined sitting here talking to you in Saudi Arabia a few years ago. What's brought you here overall?
I think we first came here in 2019 when Anthony Joshua rematched Andy Ruiz, and we started to notice, the movement of major sports and major corporations staging events and sports in the kingdom. And obviously for us, it's important to be part of any movement that's going to bring increased participation, increased prize money, increased opportunities for our sportsmen and our athletes. So we saw that. We came to the kingdom in 2019, and then we returned in 2022, coming off the back of COVID, because it slowed down the development, and it's changed a lot, and you've seen now from that period in 2019 to where we are in 2024 now, so many more sports, so many more major corporations evolve here, be part of this movement, if you like, and it was important for us to be part of it. So this week, actually, although we've got the boxing on Friday night, we've also got the Riyadh season World Masters of Snooker taking place, which is the final today, Ronnie O'Sullivan and the world's top 10 players. So it's diverse for us across sports.
So Turki AlShaykh, he's become quite a big player. He's got a big influence now, not just in the kingdom, but outside, it seems. What's your relationship with him, and what sort of role has he played in what you do here?
Yeah, we're very close, because we both share a passion for sport and primarily boxing. A remarkable man. I mean, very funny, so passionate, but very smart. And sometimes people get the sort of movement of sport in Saudi Arabia mixed up with an endless pot of money with no strategy. This man is very smart. He's very passionate. It's not a case of wasting money, but they have a plan of what they want to do. And I'm honoured to be a part of it, because I love boxing. He's actually brought the biggest rivals in the game together, particularly myself and Frank Warren, to work together. And we all share the same passion for the sport. But when I look at the promos, the strategy, the vision, and the plans that he has for the sport, I can't help but be excited. And we're really enjoying his company. We're really enjoying being in Saudi Arabia, our team, the fighters. And I always say to people, you need to come and see things with your own eyes. Right. And people have many perceptions of different places, and we love it here.
Yeah, the hospitality is amazing.
Incredible.
I've seen you field quite a few questions and comments and accusations of Saudi Arabia sports washing, that is spending billions of dollars to improve the country's image by bringing in the big names and hosting the big events. Do you think we'd have the same comments if we were sitting here, say, in France?
No, and I don't agree with it. I think first of all, we have a responsibility to our athletes to present them with life-changing opportunities to create legacy, but also to create a financial future for all of their efforts within their sport. That's one thing. We've seen here on the ground participation at grassroots level go through the roof. I was here in 2019. Boxing just came to the kingdom. People were excited. Now it's another world. And you know what? If we have to use sport to produce change, I don't see a problem with that at all. I don't see any moment where people like Turki AlShaykh are thinking, oh, let's bring sport to the kingdom. It's a good look. No, they're doing it because they have a passion to bring major events and entertainment to the kingdom, but also to inspire the next generation. Now, when Anthony Joshua walks down the street, you're seeing kids go, oh, I go to the local gym. I'm a boxer. Anthony, look at Ronaldo. I mean, to bring someone like Ronaldo to play in the Saudi league, what do you think that does for the next generation? To inspire them, to get them active. You need role models, you need heroes. And I think sport is an advocate for change. And that's what I see. And again, all those people that want to criticise it, come and see it with your own eyes. I've seen it. over the space of 5 years, the change that's happening here. And it is incredible, and it's only going one way.
I was going to ask you what you think Saudi Arabia has that's unique to offer, not just as a venue, of course, but in its strive to grow its own sports culture.
Yeah, but that's important. I mean, recently, I think grassroots boxing was up 300%. They've opened the Mike Tyson boxing gym, the Saudi Boxing Academy, because historically, you don't have fighters from this region. They want to try and inspire that younger generation to go to amateur world championships, to represent them in the Olympics, and to come through and win world championships in a professional code. So, in that respect, that's great for the sport as a whole, because you want to bring sport to the kingdom so that the global exposure is there, but they also have a passion to build the infrastructure at grassroots, which is important to us as well. So again, every time we come, we see that change. Last night at the open workout, Anthony Joshua was in the ring with 6 or 7 young amateur boxers who were all in there, and it was amazing to see that enthusiasm, that freshness. And some people often say to me, don't you feel like you're taking boxing away from New York and Las Vegas and Wembley Stadium? And I say, boxing's a global game. There's a whole world out there, and this is going to be a major part of the boxing calendar.
Yeah, there's a shift in attitude. I think it's a good thing. So let's talk Anthony Joshua. How are the preparations going for the big fight, the upcoming fight with Francis Ngannou?
Really good. I mean, Ngannou is a freak of a man, not just in size, but he's a UFC world champion who boxed Tyson Fury. I thought beat him, dropped him in the fight, gave him the scare of his life, and that's made him very credible as an opponent. His Excellency tells us that the winner of that fight will be in line to fight the winner of Fury Usyk for the undisputed world championship, which is what we've always dreamed of for Anthony. So it's a scary fight against Ngannou. I've likened it to Godzilla against King Kong. 2 absolute atoms coming together, and it's one you definitely don't want to blink at. In the heavyweight division, one punch can change everything, and it's definitely one to watch through the fingers on Friday night in Riyadh.
Let me ask you what chance there is that Anthony Joshua will fight Tyson Fury, irrespective of the outcome of his fight with Usyk.
Yeah, I think that's the fight that everyone's always wanted. I think it's inevitable. But if AJ wins on Friday night and Fury beats Usyk, you have the biggest fight in the history of the sport. And I will no longer be stopped down at every street that I walk asking, when are we going to get AJ against Fury?
Now, your relationship with Anthony Joshua is a long one, so it's deep and quite profound, I would imagine. How much does it affect you? How much do you kind of share the suffering when he gets hurt in the ring or even emotionally outside?
Yeah, he's a friend. We signed him in 2012 after he won gold in the Olympics in London. And we've shared that journey for 12 years, watching him grow from a young man to where he is now, which is one of Britain's most successful sportsmen ever. A fine young man, great ambassador for the sport, but we live and breathe it together. So, the highs of him beating Klitschko in front of 90,000 at Wembley, regaining his world championship here to beat Andy Ruiz, but also the suffering of defeat to Andy Ruiz at Madison Square Garden, the 2 Usyk defeats at Tottenham and in Jeddah. You live and breathe that, but that's the highs and lows of the sport that for me, I think anyone that works in sport is basically just a failed athlete. Like, if I had my way, maybe I wouldn't be in the ring, but I would be out on the pitch, or I would be trying to get the glory. But my dad always said to me, if you can get 1% of the adrenaline that a fighter gets on the night, you're very lucky. And I feel like I get 60 or 70%. And I live it and breathe it with them. And that's why when you see him win, sometimes you'll see me hurdle over the ropes. And that's just the excitement and the passion I have for the sport, and particularly for Anthony Joshua's career, because that's been a massive part of my life.
How do you handle the downs?
I think you just, it's a famous saying, isn't it? You don't lose, you learn. And I think we've got to be there for our fighters. You saw when Anthony lost to Usyk in Jeddah, you saw him almost break down in the press conference after. I've never seen him cry, and it was, people don't sometimes realise the sacrifice that athletes make, particularly fighters. I think it's the toughest sport in the world. And when you've trained for 12 weeks to regain your World Heavyweight Championship and you get beat and the world comes crumbling down, it's tough, but that's what builds character. And defeat builds character as well. So we're not the athlete, but we go through that with them. And for me, the highs and lows are what makes my job, what it is. If every day was, placid, if every day was success, then how exciting can it be? You need to get hurt a little bit. You need to have that hunger to bounce back, and they're an inspiration to me, particularly Anthony. You know, he's been an inspiration to me over the years.
Now, Eddie, you made that comparison, the King Kong Godzilla kind of level. What's your thought on mixed martial artists coming into the traditional boxing ring? I mean, how much of an overlap is there? Do you worry at all about the purity of the sport?
Yeah, I think commercially I understand it. I was one of the biggest criticisers of Ngannou against Fury. You know, I thought it was a mismatch. I couldn't see how someone could come into boxing from the mixed martial arts world and compete with the elite level of the sport. But he did it. You know, the heavyweight division's a little bit different because if you can punch and you have ability, you're always in the fight. You know, the lower weight classes, we saw Conor McGregor fight Floyd Mayweather. I don't think he can beat him, but people in sport know Ngannou can beat Joshua. We're not going into this fight going, oh, it's one-sided, it's an exhibition. This is a real fight between two strong, big punchers. So I think normally I'm actually not a fan of the crossover fights. But here you have the UFC world champion who just, you know, in my opinion, beat Tyson Fury, fighting one of the biggest stars in the sport. Like I said, two giants collide and anything can happen at any moment in this fight.
Now, how would you lure Conor McGregor back into the ring? Would you like to be the guy who does that?
Yeah, we speak a lot. You know, I'm quite pally with Conor. Just a great character, great self-promoter, always looking to fight anyone at any time. And, you know, I think the boxing, you know, he probably made, well, he did, definitely made his biggest purse ever fighting Floyd Mayweather. So whether there's a boxing comeback in there, I'd like to see him back in some respect, hopefully in the cage. But yeah, a great asset to the sport.
Now, you're in the business competing with rivals that many of them locked horns with your dad, Barry, including Frank Warren, whom you mentioned. What makes you a better promoter than Frank Warren?
You know, I think one thing you can never take away from that older generation, my dad included, Frank Warren, Bob Arum, is, you know, their ability to survive, you know, through the ups and downs. You talked earlier about how do you deal with those moments and those peaks and troughs. The more peaks and troughs you have, the more experience you have, the more knowledge you have, the more resilience you have. So those guys, they're great survivors. And the knowledge for boxing, you know, I've been around boxing since I was 8 years old. My dad's a Hall of Fame promoter. But in my household growing up, the people that are my rivals now, I saw my dad challenging during my early teens. And, you know, I remember the conversations in the house. I think what makes me a better promoter than that generation is the ability to engage in the new digital world. You know, I built a big social media following with a plan to, you know, be a character myself within this crazy world of boxing. I mean, Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, and really boxing is just a big play, and we're all just caricatures within that play. So it was important for me to build that platform and really embrace the world of digital media, of course social media particularly. And now at 44, I'm actually at the back end of, I'm becoming old myself, and you see all these young kids coming through. But yeah, definitely my ability to interact with fight fans.
I'll get into that social media and your profile in a sec, but you know, traditionally boxing, some of the names you mentioned, it's been a sport of big names, big characters, big men. But apparently one of the most intimidating characters I think you've come across is Ireland's Katy Taylor as a woman.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, you know, I saw Katy Taylor win gold in the London 2012 Olympics, and I've never seen an atmosphere like it. You know, the Irish really support their own, and she's a legend of the sport. And after she didn't medal in the 2016 Rio Olympics, she sent me a DM on Twitter and said, look, I'd like to turn pro. You know, would you be interested in having a conversation? And there was no market for women's boxing, but there was a shift from broadcasters to start investing more in women's sport, mainly football. But out of respect, I had a meeting with her because she's a legend of the sport. And I just met this, you know, one of the most driven individuals I've ever met. You know, this is a girl who used to walk through the doors of an amateur boxing club, tie her ponytail up and walk in with the headguard on because girls boxing was banned in Ireland. She used to compete and pretend she was a boy. She then went to the IOC to canvass them to allow women's boxing into the Olympics. They said no, she wouldn't stop. And in the end, the IOC said, look, we're going to put a ring up. You bring over an opponent and we will watch and we will decide whether we think women's boxing should go into the Olympics. They watched her fight the world number 2, and they were like, wow, women's boxing is in. She got women's boxing in the Olympics. She then won gold in 2012. And I had to be part of her journey. And that's been one of the best journeys I've ever been on, because we got laughed at. You know, we got told women's boxing would never be commercially viable. And the journey we've been on to her led us to selling out Madison Square Garden in one of the greatest nights in the history of the venue against Amanda Serrano, filling the 3 Arena in Ireland on multiple occasions. She's boxed at Wembley Stadium, Millennium Stadium. And we've seen a whole influx of professional women coming through and winning world championship. But more importantly, grassroots. You go to an amateur boxing club now, which is probably one of the best places you could ever send your children. And you see so many girls, 30, 40% of the club full up with young girls, my daughter included. And she has just been an unbelievable asset to boxing, and probably one of my greatest achievements, actually, you know, as a father of 2 daughters as well, to see her resilience to create opportunities for women in sport. It's been amazing.
What chances there she might fight at Ireland's Spiritual Sports Hub, Croke Park?
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah.
It's 80,000. The whole country wants it. It's definitely something we have to do before she retires. But you know, we've been in the 3 Arena there, which holds 10,000, which is an instant sellout. The atmosphere, incredible. And she's, you know, she will go down, in my opinion, as Ireland's greatest ever athlete.
You know, we were talking here in Saudi Arabia, where it wasn't that many years ago, women didn't play a very visible role in society. I'd argue perhaps behind the scenes they might, but now they're much more visible. And I wonder how much in Saudi Arabia women's boxing might expand.
I think so. You know, I mean, even again, going back to the workout last night, there were 2 girls in the ring. You know, I think that what people don't understand about sending your child to an amateur boxing club, you don't have to walk through those doors to become a world champion. Boxing gives you so much more, so many more of the qualities that you need in life. You know, discipline, respect, manners, physical health, mental health, teamwork. Gives you a feeling of being part of a community and a family. You know, understanding losing, understanding winning, respect, and all these things in sport. And you know, I feel like it's built the confidence. You know, I can look at it in my own experience with my daughter. It's changed her completely. You know, in terms of her confidence, obviously her fitness. You know, the way she carries herself. And I think that sport can really inspire the generations here in Saudi Arabia as well, whether it's boxing, whether it's soccer. And we're seeing a lot of young girls now participate in grassroots boxing in Saudi, which is amazing to see. So we need to show them the path and show them the great female fighters as well, and show them what's possible to get out of the sport.
Well, Eddie, as you're indicating, the sport's as much mind as body. You know, and you've spent most of your life around the professional sports, in the changing rooms, and got the vibe of the place. How much can you tell how a fight might turn out just by kind of the mood and the vibe in that room? Yeah,
a lot. You know, being in a changing room, particularly before a fight, is one of the most incredible experiences, because let's be honest, boxing's not normal, is it? You know, it's not. You're not going out on a field with 10 teammates and playing 90 minutes of football. You're not going and playing 18 holes or a game of tennis. You're about to go and fight another man or woman in front of the world. It's a really unique sport. And being in changing rooms since I was 8 years old, you know, being in Bruno, Eubank, Nazim Hamed, you know, all the greats changing room, you learn a lot and you see so many different things. So everyone's different. You know, some fighters will be banging the wall, screaming. Others will be, Katy Taylor, would just be sitting there in a quiet room with her and her trainer, you know. Just gathering our thoughts. Some have music on, some like no music, some like to warm up for 45 minutes, some like just to hit pads for 2 minutes, some like to get a sweat on, some don't like to, you know, some like 400 people in their changing room and their whole entourage screaming and shouting, and everyone's different. You know, there's no formula to success in that respect. Really, that comes in the preparation and the work they've put in before they walk through the doors of the changing room.
I think most people agree, Eddie, that you're a great storyteller. I wonder if there's one particular story that best illustrates your work as a promoter.
Oh, I mean, I think for me, the proudest thing is just to allow people to follow their dreams and be part of journeys. You know, last Saturday I was in New York. Ray Ford, who's an American fighter, just won the World Championship. He came into my office as an 18-year-old kid from Camden, New Jersey. You know, very humble beginnings with all his family. and sort of couldn't even look me in the eye at the time, just looking at the floor, and all his family were there. And Al Ray's going to be a world champion one day, Eddie, you watch. And, we had a dream together. And on Saturday night, he captured the world title. And we were all there, again, going back to just being part of the journeys. Definitely my success in women's boxing as well. And also seeing fighters like Anthony Joshua. Boxing changes and saves lives. You've only got to speak to people like Anthony Joshua. He was, hanging out with the wrong people. He got arrested. It looked like he was going to go to prison. He found boxing. It changed his life. It gave him a purpose. It gave him a sense of community. And then he went on to become one of the most famous fighters ever. So my work is not done, but I hope that my legacy is not just built around creating big nights for the sport. It's built at building boxing at grassroots level and making sure that we can inspire that younger generation for change.
Now you, as we touched on, have become a massive social media star. Sites such as No Context or Out of Context, millions of views of the video clips and the memes and everything else. What sort of response do the fighters get to your visibility, to your fame?
Yeah, I built my profile so I could build the sport, but also so that I could have a voice, a powerful voice for my fighters, So there's a method to the madness. No Context Hearn was just by luck. Someone created a site. I mean, I'm like boxing's David Brent, really. A lot of people say, unfortunately. And, I'm very light-hearted. I think you've got to be able to laugh at yourself and take the mickey out of yourself. So those kind of sites are great. But the more people that know me, like you said, I'm a storyteller. That's my job, is to build the narrative of a fight and sell you the dream of one of my fighters so that you can follow their journey. And the bigger my platform, the bigger that reach, the easier it is to tell that story to the masses. So, yeah, there's a method to the madness. I'm definitely not looking to outshine the fighter, but it's been a big part of our success is, if you look at all these major, particularly fight sport corporations, I looked at the UFC with Dana White, WWE with Vince McMahon. You need the figurehead, the spokesman for professional boxing. And I'd like to think that globally, I've slotted into that spot.
I'd never have compared you with David Brent from The Office, Ricky Gervais. Now, what happens if you have two boxers you represent come together in the ring? I mean, I don't know if that really ever happens in a big way.
Happens a lot. Hate it.
How do you split your loyalty?
Hate it. Yeah. Because, we had it recently. Katy Taylor boxed Chantel Cameron. Two of my fighters, two undisputed world champions. But my journey with Katy has been a very close one. And, a huge fan of Chantel Cameron as well. I'm the guy at ringside. I want my heart to be beating out of my chest. I want to see the hairs on my arms standing up with excitement. And when I've got two fighters in the fight, you have to be emotionless. And I really don't enjoy it that much. Going back to Ray Ford on Saturday, I dived in the ring at the end. We all fell on the floor and, so you have to sit there and show no emotion because you always fall out with the loser. Oh, you wanted them to win. I saw you in the interview after. You looked like you had a smile on your face. But I don't really. I just sort of try to be emotionless, which is not really what I enjoy. But when two fighters that you represent come together, normally you fall out with one of them.
Well, I heard you say a number of times, it's about coming first. In fact, to quote one of the phrases you said, do or die, it's all about the winning. So where does that leave people who like to just participate in a sport? Who want to just be there? They might never make it to the top, but they enjoy being a part of it.
I'm changing my mentality a little bit. And I think what I've learned in life is that just because of how you were raised doesn't mean you can't ever change your mindset as you discover more about life and you grow as a person. So for me, growing up, it was drilled into me that winning was everything. It was the only thing that mattered. I played cricket at quite a high level, county cricket, and I would come home as a 13, 14-year-old, and I would say to my dad, my mum, they'd say, how did you get on today? And I'd say, I got bowled out for 7, but it was a great ball. I mean, it was a Yorker. 7? Come on. Go and get a 50 tomorrow. Not, well done, son. There's always tomorrow, but you took part. Did you enjoy it? And that's just how I was raised. So for me, as you respect your parents who are your heroes, that is what life is all about. To be fair, it's given me my greatest attributes, which is the ability to work myself to the bone and outperform my competitors. Now as a father, I started with that mentality, but I have that conversation a lot with people in sport. And sometimes, There's a funny story. My daughter, who I think is the best player in the team, as you would do as a father, they substitute everybody so that everybody can get a game. I can't get my head around it. Why would you take off your best player to give someone who doesn't have the ability to replace them a game? And the answer is for participation. Right. To help, if we're trying to promote grassroots sport, what we can't do is just make it elitist, so those with talent get the opportunity, because the other talent will never get the opportunity to grow. So in my world, winning has to remain everything. And I think if you are going to be the best in your field, you have to have that mentality. But now I'm much more softened to the role of participation in sport, because otherwise, when we come to places like this, the ability levels at the moment in boxing are low because there's no history, there's no roadmap. So participation is key. But when you're talking about the greats, winning has to be everything. You have to be that hard-nosed person. Losing has to break you. You know, I always say to a fighter that gets beat, you need to go home, I want you to feel the pain. And if there's no pain, then you need to stop. I said it to AJ after he got beat. I said, how are you feeling? He said, sick. You know, I can't sleep. Good. That means you want it. So go to the gym, work harder.